The United States' involvement in the Great War. World War I took place in 1914 and 1918. The Great War was fought for several reasons. However, the main reason was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand on June 28th. Other long-term causes that led up to this war were militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. This led to the formation of the two alliances, the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance. Britain, France, and Russia formed the Triple Entente, while Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy formed the Triple Alliance. For the first few years of the war, the U.S. wanted to remain neutral. President Woodrow Wilson formed a united policy of strict neutrality. The U.S. originally stayed neutral because they wanted and needed to continue trading goods with other countries on both sides. Also, the country as a whole did not want to get involved in fighting. Wilson stated, "It was a war with which we have nothing to do, whose causes cannot touch us." This is another reason the United States stayed out of combat. They saw no need to get involved in an issue they had no part of. The United States realized getting involved in the Great War would only lead to the spending of money for military funds and depletion of their resources, and there were no benefits to fighting for this cause. However, May 7, 1915 and January 19, 1917 were very important days in that these were two main reasons for the U.S. entry into World War I. May 7, 1915. The Lusitania was sailing out by the coast of Ireland. A German U-boat fired a missile at the ship, sinking it at roughly 2 o'clock p.m. It took only 18 minutes for this massive ship to become completely submerged in the water. 1,119 members aboard the Lusitania died during this wreckage. A rough 120 passengers were American citizens, which infuriated the United States. While this was not the direct cause of the U.S. entry into the war, it certainly had a huge impact on the decision for the country to join the war 2 years later. January 19, 1917. British intelligence intercepted the Zimmermann telegram that was sent out by the Germans, which was intended for Mexico. The telegram was a proposal to Mexico asking them to form an alliance with Germany. The Germans proposed this offer to prepare themselves in case the United States decided to enter the war. Having an alliance with Mexico would benefit the Germans by giving them an advantage of location over the United States if they entered the Great War on the opposing side of Germany. The telegram was the direct cause of the United States joining the Triple Entente during World War I. The United States joined the side against Germany for two reasons. One reason was that Germany was the country who sent the Zimmermann telegram, which created tensions between the U.S. and Germany. The second reason for the United States joining the opposing side was that Britain was the country who intercepted and decoded the telegram and went on to inform the United States of Germany's intentions. Since Great Britain was one of the three countries on the opposing side against Germany, the United States joined their forces. The U.S. felt as if they owed their help and resources to Britain to aid the fight against Germany. On April 6, 1917, the United States, under President Wilson, requested to declare war against Germany. Congress approved this request one day later on April 7th, and the United States officially declared war against the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The United States were a huge help to the British throughout the war. One huge advantage the United States brought to the war was their energy, spirits, and morale. These men were fresh and ready to fight, while troops from other countries had already been fighting and in combat for 3 years. This gave the Allied powers a great advantage over their opponents. The United States troops found motivations in several different ways. One major source of motivation was nationalism. These men had extreme pride in their country and wanted to do all they could to protect and defend it. Also, while in war, the men in the army were motivated by other members of the military. They were fighting with family members and close friends, so therefore they were fighting to get the man next to them home. Unlike other countries, the United States military had extremely strong bonds between their men. These bonds created a strong sense of unity within the U.S. Armed Forces. This was another major motivation for the United States. One last motivation that really encouraged the Army to fight was propaganda. Propaganda played a huge role in the Great War. Not only was propaganda used in the war to help motivate the men to fight, but it was used as motivation and a boost for the morale of the country as a whole. In most countries, the civilians and townspeople had low spirits while their country was at war. However, it was different in the United States. The propaganda led to a boost in the morale of the whole country because it portrayed the successes of the military at war. The great accomplishments of the United States military throughout the war made the people of the nation realize how strong the country really was. Also, the propaganda led to the support of the nation in the war. For many other nations, the people of the country wanted nothing but to get out of the war, while in the United States, the people were almost happy to be at war. Along with that, the people would make and send care packages to the United States troops, donate money to the war, and raise funds to help pay for supplies and transportation. The public was very persuaded by the posters they saw. Since the American troops were fighting on the winning side, the public was more receptive to the propaganda. Also, the posters and flyers around the nation helped show citizens that it was not only important to have men actually fighting, but the support of those who were not in combat was just as important. This was a major advantage throughout the war because it kept the men's spirits high and also gave the men more supplies to fight with. The United States' entry into the war and the power they brought to their allies resulted in the downfall of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The war consisted of brutal trench warfare. The area between the trenches was known as no man's land. This was because the men knew better than to enter this section of the battlefield because it was very dangerous. It was almost a guaranteed death sentence. The reason for this area being such a dangerous spot was due to the new weapons invented and used during combat. Many of the new weapons that were used during World War I were machine guns, tanks, aircrafts, barbed wire, and poisonous gases. The introduction of these weapons into combat caused for many casualties and changed the way of fighting in war as we knew it. The United States was very wealthy and contributed a surplus of weapons to their men and their allied troops during the Great War. This aid from the United States to the Triple Entente played a huge role in the defeat of the Germans. As well as the supplies, the men from the United States Army were also a vital key. The United States sent men into France to join forces and invade Germany on its western front. This was a crucial move because it turned the Great War into a two-front war against Germany. While the United States was invading and attacking Germany's western border, Russia was on their way to invade Germany's eastern front. Germany developed the Schlieffen Plan. The idea behind this was to stop the troops in France first by attacking them through Belgium and then turning around to defeat the forces coming in through Russia. This was the only way for Germany to attempt to avoid what they feared the most, a two-front war. The Schlieffen Plan failed and resulted in the two-front war Germany tried so hard to avoid and caused Germany to have to split their troops and place men on both sides of the country, which greatly weakened the military. The two-front war even further decreased the morale of the German troops and even the spirits of the nation as a whole. The citizens did not want to be a part of the war and did not send very much support to their men in combat. As the fighting continued, the Germans became weaker and weaker. At this point, the discussion of forming an armistice for Germany to sign to bring about the end of the Great War began. However, the war officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919. This stated that Germany must pay for the reparations of the war, and Germany had to take responsibility for it as well. This was the end of the First World War, and the United States men went home to their family and friends. These men also received victory medals for their tremendous accomplishments over in Europe. While the fighting was now over, the United States were still involved in the decisions being made after the war was over. The U.S. involvement in the war did not officially end until the Knox-Porter Resolution was signed on the 2nd of June, 1921.